So while we wait for the slide changer, I want to take advantage of this moment, and I hope they will discount my time. I want to thank her for her presence here. I think it's really important for the Trinational Conference that the president of the Teachers Federation is with us. I think it's very important. Also, when I heard when I hear more about the dominion of when I hear more about the justifications of the Canadian government of their policies towards public education, I think about Mexico, which uses the same justifications for its public policies. I say this. I'm going to begin my presentation. I want to start with a question. I want to know who of all of you participated or have you heard of the struggle in Mexico for demanding that the 43 Ayotzinapa students are returned to us. Comrades, this is how I start my presentation. I said, they took them living and we want them back alive. I want to speak about primarily... Oh, sorry, the technology is not working for me today. Nope, not working. So the slide says criminalization of teacher training and the struggle for student teachers. I can try to translate for us. What I want to propose to all of you that we think about some of the questions that we have up here. First, why would 43 student teachers be disappeared from Ayotzinapa, and why would 3 be murdered? Are they so desperate? The Mexican state is so desperate that they are looking to make more vulnerable our social rights in order to generate a state-sponsored terror? And why would they carry out an act so brutal as to assassinate at the level, for example, of the 1968 Mexican Students Massacre? This was a counterinsurgent process that started many years ago to the effect of militarizing the country and justifying itself through the combat of narcotrafficking. What are the different factors that were generated that would lead to a social insurrection? Because that's what we had in Mexico after the disappearance of the 43 and the murder of 3. We had an insurrection, an insurrection that confronted the commission of this crime. What is the link between these actions and the power of teachers' unions? The answer to that last question is we had a strong power that was connected between the resistance and teacher unions. So in September 26 and 27, 2014 is when this state crime was committed. And as the national report recently stated, Mexico is living one of the worst economic crises and a political and economic crisis of its history. There's an increase in authoritarianism and militarization to exercise power of the state, and they're trying to violate the full spectrum of our social, labor, and human rights. And they are trying to seek tools to implement and impose energy reforms, different reforms at the level of the state, including energy policy, social security, health, economic reforms, and also educational reforms. Why do I put education at the end? Why are they targeting the education sector? They would like to eliminate the whole social resistance that can join together and actually face these reforms. What is the social contingent, as I call them? This resistance is the democratic teacher unions of our country, and it's articulated through the CENTE, the National Coordinating Committee of Education Teachers. And they're also, this is basically targeting the education sector on all levels, primary, middle school, and high school. For over 37 years, they've been targeting this sector. What are the characteristics of this national teachers movement? Historically, the teachers in Mexico have always been social leaders, linked to their communities. And in addition to this, they have teacher training that allows them to have a collective identity and ability to seek collective action. These teachers belong to a national union that is the National Teachers Union, but this is basically, this union is not actually one that defends their rights. And so they organize themselves as the CENTE, the National Coordinating Committee of Education of Teachers. The CENTE came about in 1979 and participated in the democratization of the national union. It's not outside of the national union, it's part of the national union. It's inside of the union. They practice a rank-and-file democracy that is direct. They act in the national context, but it's not a national movement with a homogeneous direction. In some cases, this has become a limitation because it translates into a sum total of regional movements and that have joint action initiatives. It is a mass movement, and we say that it happens in waves, like the sea. So one comes up, one wave surges, and then there are others. So there have been some very key movements. In in red, you can see the really important movements that have happened in different moments. And so 89 and 92, and then here we have 79, 83. So you can see in red the shifts in different parts of the country. This map is full of different symbols, and this is the teacher union insurrection in 2013. All of these areas represented a type of action. For example, there were different actions taken, like blockading roads, blocking the entrance to airports. It was a very intense time period of action, but there were also public forums, actions to build joint thinking around education. What have the demands been? The demands have traveled from strictly salary demands and labor demands, and moved into building different social alliances, seeking broad sector investment education. And this is why they are fighting the teachers' unions. There are different recognition things that are required in a democratic state. One is the construction of social alliances, not only in support of teachers' unions, but also to develop a broader politic. International action has been, the perspective of international action has been difficult to give a primary place in our political actions, although it has been very important, the Trinational Coalition in Defense of Public Education to this end. So the Democratic Union is a fundamental social subject. And CENTE is what they want to combat. So why do they use these methods of violence? Because the students of Ayotzinapa are actually students, rural and indigenous students, that are going to come into this longer trajectory of resistance. And so they want to demobilize, to fracture this particular movement, who are going to continue the fight against neoliberal reforms. These particular students. Why was it such a huge response on behalf of the state? Why was it so serious? Why was it so grave? It's because there's been growing resistance at the national level. There's a generalized indignation because of the great concentration of wealth against the population, and the majority of the population suffering in poverty. There have been a lot of different important movements at the global level, but then at the national level, there's the Zapatista campaigns, and another factor is the presence of the Trinational Coalition in Defense of Public Education and Red Cepa, the IDEA network in 1983, and their presence was another factor. What is the link between acting against power and combating democratic teachers? They are trying to break the resistance of the teacher training schools that have been principal in resisting these reforms. Here is a photo of, we went to Ayotzinapa to have a whole international solidarity event as the Trinational and the IDEA network. We went and were present. The importance of international action has been that we've been able, and some of you are here in this picture, we've been able to organize international solidarity through the Trinational participants, and we're not only talking about sending letters or doing consulate protests. We have also been able to bring people to participate in international forums in Ayotzinapa and in the actual physical environment of the Ente. They've been able to participate and be present. So I'm going to end there mentioning that the coalition has been a bridge between the teachers' unions of Canada, United States, and Latin America. They wanted to take Mexico out. So they wanted to take Mexico out of the international solidarity with Latin America and only put them over into the North America solidarity contingent. But no, now we were all of the Americas. We have solidarity amongst all of us throughout the Americas through the support of the Trinational. So I just want to leave this slide so that we can reflect together in the conference. And the international context, we need to move from solidarity to building an anti-neoliberal program, a program in which education should be a central axis of humanizing the relationships between people and communities. There is a phrase painted on a wall that says, "They took so very much away that they took away their fear." They took them alive, and we want them back alive. Ayotzinapa lives, and the struggle continues.